So this is your second World Cup. I think most people, saw you and knew it was a lock that you would make this roster. Still, when the call comes, what's that feeling like?
Well, I think most people saw I was bawling my eyes out, per usual. I think it's just that feeling never gets old. Alex actually just said that. It doesn't get old. No matter how many World Cup rosters you make, how many rosters you make, call up, whatever, it doesn't get old. And I think you need to be grateful for every single call-up that you get, every roster that you make. It's an honor to represent this team and, be named, one of the best players in the United States. So very, very emotional for me.
You're 29 years old. You just signed this brand new deal with Lyon. The statistics would suggest you're kind of at the prime of your career. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that way?
I think so. I think I always feel like there's more to come. I think especially going into this World Cup, I think this is going to be a huge tournament for me. But I feel like I'm coming to my own at Lyon, and I'm a different player than I was when I was in France the first time. Scoring more goals and having more impact on the field. So, and a more leadership role, both with them and the national team. So, yeah, I think I could say I'm hitting my prime. I hope it stays that way for like 5-10 years.
You say more. I mean, what more? You got a Champions League title. You're playing one of the best teams in the world. You've proven it at the international level. Like, what more do you see as terms of room for growth in your game?
It's tough because as athletes, you want more trophies. You want more championships. You just want to be a better player every single day. I think that's what makes us, professional athletes, the competitive edge that you always have. And I think for me, it's like you look back on your past years and the World Cups and the trophies and whatnot, but, it's now zooming into what's next. And I think I will always be like that in my career. So the last World Cup was, one of the coolest moments of my career, but now I'm zoomed into this World Cup and how I can impact, how I can be the best player I can be for my team.
I wonder about the decision to stay in Lyon. I think you did a deal through 2026. I'm sure a player like you had a lot of interest in the National Women's Soccer League, no shortage of opportunities. Mm-hmm. Why then the choice to stay in Europe?
Yeah, it was a hard one. Obviously, Portland gave me so much. 6 years of playing there, it was my home, and the fans, the club, and everything, regardless of what's happened in the past few years, they were my home. And I think for me, looking at my career and where I wanted to be, playing in Champions League, playing in Europe, it's not like anything else. And I don't think you get that feeling unless you actually play. In those kind of tournaments. I feel like a Champions League, playing in that is not fully similar, but it's like playing for a major trophy with your national team. It's the biggest accolade you could get, in the club level. So for me, playing in that against the best players in the world, best European teams in the world, that's where I wanted to be. And I think for me, also health-wise, physically, I wanted to be in a place where I could be training on grass every single day as well. And I think that's a major component that is not seen as much in the NWSL and where certain teams are training, and especially in Portland. I would hate myself if I didn't say that, because they deserve better as well.
How big a difference is that? I think from a layman's perspective, you say, oh, turf, it must not be that big a deal. Clearly it is.
Huge deal. And I think the older you get, the more you feel it as well. I think I trained on it for 6 years. Sinky trained on it for how many years? It puts a number on your body that, every team that comes in and plays at Portland, that you feel it worse. You go play 90 minutes there, and it's so much harder in your body. And I don't think a lot of people realize it, but it's just a different kind of impact. And then you have to think about the women training there every single day. It's not good. So they need to have a facility for the women as well. How do the Timbers have it, but the Thorns don't?
Aside from the turf, I think when you make the comparison NWSL to Europe, people want to know, like, what's the difference style of play?
Yeah.
I know Europe, it's hard to paint with like a broad brush, and I know not even every team in the French league is the same, but yeah. What are the differences between NWSL style, Lyon style, European style?
Well, I could talk about it for hours with you, but in my perspective, I think the French style, and especially in Lyon, is always going to be a possession-based, very technical, tactical style of play. They want the ball. They value the ball. They want to entertain the fans with, the best football that you could see. How many passes can you connect before you're going to goal? How can you get there in the fastest way possible, score the most goals possible, be the most threatening team, but also play like a very nice style. And I think, in the NWSL, when I look back like 6 years ago or whatever, it was not even close to getting to this style. I think the NWSL has such a physical aspect, so many athletes, so much speed, so much dominance in that physical game, but it was lacking a lot of, the football sense. And I think that was hard for me, playing in Portland at some points, even though Portland plays a very good style of play. I think it's definitely gotten better and better, where there's a mix. And I think even in Europe, you see a lot of teams where they're getting more of, what we have in the NWSL. So it's hard for me to talk about, because I think both places are getting better at, the other aspects that maybe they weren't before. But I still think that football aspect is Europe for me.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you prefer the possession-based style. I wonder how much of that has to do with kind of the beginnings of your career. You didn't start in the NWSL. You went straight to PSG. Mm-hmm. Hindsight's 2020. As you look back at that decision, can you weigh the impact of it on your career? Because it really was kind of breaking the mold at the time.
Yeah. I think it had, the biggest impact on me, off the field, on the field, everything. But as a player, I got to learn from some of the best players in the world, international, foreign players, German national team, Swedish, Tobin was there. I got to be playing with these players overseas in a new country on a big team, playing in Champions League, playing in the French League, French Cup, whatever. And so I think it was just a lot at once, and I had to learn very quickly, what their culture was like, what their style of play was like. And like I said, it was very possession-based. It was we value the ball. We don't want to lose the ball. We connect 10 passes before we're moving into the next segment of the game, these kind of things. That was so valued to me. And I think that's where I come from when I speak about this possession, this kind of style of play that I enjoy, because I always want the ball. I think you could probably see that on the field. I'm screaming for it nonstop. But I think that helped me see the game in a different way. And you're immersed in it. You get to go watch, the men's games as well, and see that kind of football. It's different over there.
Let's focus in on the World Cup team. 14 players that weren't on the last World Cup team. How is this group different from 2019?
Exactly what you just said. We have new players, we have young players, and we have the veterans. We have the players that have been here before. I think it's a very cool experience for this national team, where maybe we haven't gotten this before. I think these new young players, they're absolutely ready for this moment, or they wouldn't be here. I think the standard has been held high. What the veterans have showed these new young players over the course of these past few years, after the Olympics, and what it takes to win a World Cup and to go into this tournament as best as possible. I think these players know that, and I think we've done a very good job at, now we're coming together and we're going to be, the most prepared that we've ever been. And, we know it's the most competitive World Cup that we'll play in. So I think you guys are going to see, so much different from, these past World Cups. You have some of the most threatening players, in the world right now. You see players like Soph Smith scoring hat tricks, over the weekend, and, Alyssa Thompson, young threats that are coming into this game and coming into this team that are going to have huge roles going into the World Cup.
One of the other big differences from 2019, you got a new manager. What's changed under Vlatko?
A lot. I mean, you have two coaches that maybe see the game in a little bit different way. I think, the way Jill managed us through the last World Cup was, we're going obviously out to win every single game in the best way possible, and we're going to play, what the game brings us, what we can expose from different teams. And I think Vlatko, in my sense, he wants to play a certain way. Obviously, we know what teams bring, what threats they bring, but hey, we're going to play our U.S. style. Here are our strengths. We're going to play to our strengths. And So there's a mix of, what we had during the last World Cup and what's to come. And I think, Vlatko, I speak to him all the time about this. I think he values the ball. I think he values playing well and entertaining. But, scoring as fast as possible and doing the most that we possibly can to win.
Tell me a little bit about this midfield, because I see it on paper and there's a lot of really good players. And yet maybe since the Olympics, maybe even at the Olympics, it feels like it hasn't hit full throttle yet. How close are you guys?
Well, it's opinions that maybe a lot of
Do you feel I'm wrong? Do you feel I'm wrong? Do you feel like the midfield is where you guys would want it to be ahead of a World Cup?
I don't think you're necessarily wrong, because I want us to be at the absolute best going into the World Cup. I think there's been a lot of moving pieces since the Olympics. I think, you have Andy coming in that's been playing a R6 role for us. I think me and Rose were, big players as like our 210s, and then we've changed a little bit since then and how we operate and how we work, but we've had a lot of movement around us as well with interchanging players and the rosters and whatnot. So I think we've now been able to come into our own. We can play a little bit outside of the box, what Vlatko's allowed us to do. I think the recent games that we've had, I've felt the most comfortable I've felt and been able to do what I do best. And I think Rose has felt the same way. And then, you have some of these players that are now on the roster, Christie, Sanchez, DeMello, and you have Julie back here that, brings something different. And so obviously you have to see, what's to come and our lineups and whatnot, but everyone brings something else. I think it all comes together when you're going out and playing in a World Cup. And that's why I said I hope the best is to come.
A lot of people were pointing to Julie Ertz as kind of the missing piece. Do you feel that way?
It's funny. I think Julie just brings something different. No matter where she's playing on the field, she brings something different. And you like having that player on the field. Like for me, when I look at her on the field, she wants to go win. She's a winner. She's proud to wear the jersey every single game. And she wants to get the best out of me as well. So that's how I see Jules, but that doesn't take anything away from what Andy's done for us and the past few years and come into her role on the team. And like I said before, the best is yet to come for her as well.
When you think of the motivations around this tournament, do you view this more as, hey, we got to defend our title from 2019, or we have to restake our claim as the best from the last Olympics? Because I'd imagine for this group that was a pretty disappointing tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it's disappointing, but I think we kind of put both tournaments in the past. I think this is new team, new challenges, new players. This is a new World Cup. So I think, not that we're forgetting anything that has happened. You're grateful for these experiences that put you here. But this is a new challenge. This is a new World Cup. And the only thing that we're focused on right now is that first game in the World Cup against Vietnam.
You said it was going to be the most competitive, World Cup ever. The narrative is that the rest of the world is kind of catching up to the U.S. women's national team. How do you square that against what I'm sure are the expectations that have always been here for this team, which is to win it all?
Yeah, I think the narrative's, it's very funny to me because, we talk about the rest of the world catching up. I think it's kind of cool. It's like we've set that standard for such a long time. Our, the players before us, the 99ers, the ones that have won all of these championships and World Cups and Olympics, and we've set the standard of being one of the best teams for such a long period of time. And now everyone talks about everyone catching up to us. Like that's what was supposed to happen. We want the rest of the world to be at this place. So it's like, the Men's World Cup where anyone can win and all the best players, all the best teams, have all the best resources and everyone is fighting, for the same thing. And it's not like, oh, the USA is just going to win again. Obviously, we're still, one of the top teams going into the World Cup, and you can say we're number one and whatever, but it's not, I don't think it's necessarily the rest of the world is catching up. It's just, where they're meant to be at some point. We needed this. We need this fight from all these other countries. And now I think this is incredible for us because we are getting the best out of every single country. And if we, at the end of the day are on the top of the podium and we're winning another World Cup, we know that we played against, the best teams, the best players, what was best from them.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.